fun part of learning is when you're able to apply a lesson from one part of life to a totally different one. Coco Chanel said, "Before you leave the house, look in the mirror and remove one accessory." So before I hit record, I look at the shot and turn each light on and off to see what it does. And I usually end up using less than I started out with. In this case, I got rid of the LED panel on the left and turned the key light down really low. And sure, if I had a clearer idea of what I wanted from the beginning, I would have gone straight for this look, but where's the fun in that? Now, if you look carefully, you're gonna see a subtle change. What you're looking at now is 100% generated by AI, which is really cool, but also I need to figure out what I'm doing in my life because this is how I make a living. Today I'm gonna show you how I did the color grade for my last video. It's basically how I got from this to this, and then this. And they are very different. There is a reason that I had to go through these stages to get to where I wanted. And if you watch my last video, you will understand why. These are actually two different lighting schemes. I had to get to this to understand that I wanted to get to that. So basically, the location that I shot in was this. And this is obviously not the same color as this. So there's obviously a lot of color grading that went into this. For me, the color grade is a huge part of every shot that I do, and I actually build the lighting in my shots with the grade in mind. So let's see how I did it. This is the final shot. This is with the lighting all done, and I do like the way it is, or I did, to make sure that everything was where it's supposed to be. The colors, the white balance. I did use a color checker. I don't even know her. Now, this is a color checker. It's a tool that you place in the shot that can be used in post-production, in color grading, as a reference to know what each color is supposed to be. So basically, the software maps these specific colors to the digital values, and it makes sure that whatever it is that you shot, whatever it is that came through the sensor, is exactly what you get when you're color grading. And the plugin that I use is called MBR Color Corrector. I'll have a link down in the description. It's free. Adobe Premiere does not have this. I have no idea why it doesn't have this. It's such a simple tool. DaVinci Resolve does have it, so yay for them. So basically what you do is, first of all, I have to choose the color space, which is Rec 709. And I choose the brand, which here, my brand is the Spider Checker 24 from Datacolor. As you can see, we have a grid that is exactly the same colors as the color checker that I have because it's the same brand. All I have to do is line up the grid, make sure that the little boxes inside are squarely within the colors, pun intended, the source, and I go to read from frame, which seems very saturated. But the thing is, this is basically what I had on set, because I had, if you watched the last video, I had a very tungsten light lighting me, and I had the white balance set to tungsten, which made everything outside very blue because it was already like a very gray day. So the color checker just bounced everything to what it should be. Now, I do admit it is a tad oversaturated. I don't know why, but I'd rather have things a little bit oversaturated than under, because I can easily just dial it down. These are our colors. This is just a starting point. I'm definitely not going to use it like this. So now that I've normalized the color values and the white balance, I simply copy the effect and paste it onto my footage, where it is basically the same thing. It's just a little bit more exposed. Now, it is a little bit too exposed. I wanted something moody, and this feels quite high key. So I'm just gonna take down the exposure a little bit, go into the curves, create a little S curve, a little contrast,
Let's take care of the saturation. $75. Yeah, that looks okay. This is just very vibrant, and I like it as a starting point. But this looks normal, more normal. Oh my god, he's so cute. This is nice. It's cool. I like it, but there's something missing. It's like, it's not moody enough. I don't like realistic, and this kind of seems realistic for my standards. I don't like white. I don't like white walls, and I don't like black furniture. I want everything to have a color. I want everything to have undertones. So I'm just gonna duplicate this Lumetri, and I'm gonna isolate the skin tones, my skin tones, which I do with HSL. So I'm gonna select the walls, the white, and here if you click on show mask, it shows you everything that you've selected. So this is actually quite a good selection because it's just selecting the things that are white. Let me see if I can get it better. So there's a trick that I do with the hue with the HSL secondary, where you kind of try to isolate the colors that you want with the different parameters. Like, so now I'm playing around with the hue, and honestly, this looks good. This selection looks good because it's selected everything except the warm tones. And that is basically what I want. Now let's see if we go to the saturation. You see, when you activate the saturation, then it gives you a little bit more specificity in the selection. So the hue selects everything that is within the range of hues, and like it keeps that selection. And then the saturation selects everything that is within the range of saturation that's within the hues. And then the luminosity selects everything that's within the saturation range that's within the hue range. So you can get more and more specific. Getting down to luminosity, it gives me a more specific selection of everything that is not my subject, and I am going to go with this. If you drag the little rectangle there, it kind of feathers things out. But you see, the more I drag it, the more my skin tone is selected. So I have to be careful and not have that happen. And I sometimes put a little bit of blur. It kind of like blurs the edges, and a little bit of denoise, but let me go a little bit more. You have to be careful with the blur because then it blurs the edges, and whatever effect you're putting melts into the other colors that you haven't really selected. So it kind of muddies your selection. So now that I have this clean-ish selection, I am just gonna shut off the mask. And what I like to do is to make everything that is not the skin tones a little bit colder, a little bit bluish. I don't like white walls. I've never liked white walls. So I will do that with the shadows, midtones, and highlights in the HSL secondary. I'm gonna try with the midtones first. Let's push it a little bit towards blue. And yes, you can go green, but like I'm just gonna push just a little bit bluish. Okay, that's not a little bit. Yeah. So I like this. And that, that kind of makes the skin tones pop a little bit more. And I am a fan of the teal and orange. Yes, call me a cliche. I do not care. So now that's one step. I like using multiple instances of Lumetri. So I've duplicated again, which has doubled the effect. However, I'm just gonna nullify that, and I'll go back to my selection, and I will select more of the luminosity, which means that I'm going further, but I'm still leaving out the skin tones. And I think for this, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more of denoise and of blur, because this area is a little bit patchy and it could be problematic, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. So now, what would I want to do? I would want to go in the same direction and make things a little bit blue teal. I'm gonna crush the blacks a little bit. Let's see where we're going. Yeah. Now let's see where we started. Here's where we started, and here's where we are. Here's where we started. Here's where we are. Of course, it's way too saturated. So actually, I would go back to the first instance of Lumetri, and I will take that saturation down even low. Where are we? Yeah, and there's a little bit of issues happening here and there, which we're gonna clean up. And these issues, it's kind of like cumulative. So let's go back into the selection, and yeah, this is happening and this is happening, and we have to modify the selection in such a way to eliminate that, which means potentially losing, yeah, I see, when you lose that, you lose that. So this is not exactly something that can be solved. So I think maybe it's easier to subtract this from the second selection than it is to subtract it from the first. Because basically the second selection is something that we've made for the darker parts and less for the brighter parts. So I think if we focus on luminosity, then we're gonna get a cleaner selection, which is basically this. You know what? I actually think that I might have given up trying to select all of that, and I just gave that up. So let's get rid of that and focus on the rest of the shot. Now there's a little bit of a problem happening here, which is also a part of which is connected to the way I selected things. But that is very easy to fix. Yeah, this wasn't selected, and I have a feeling that if I add color, it's gonna... Oh, okay. Cool. I thought it was gonna select the skin, but it's basically doing a good job of not selecting the skin. This is what I have. This is what I got. And it's okay. So what I do now is copy all the effects and take them over to the actual shot and paste them. And it's the same thing. And it's great. I'm fine with it. I don't mind it. But then I remembered that I wanted something that was a little bit more moody. And this is not moody because the key light is not coming from the side enough. So it's basically lighting my face completely and there is no depth. I would have loved this side of my face to be more in the shadows. After I shot it and played it back, I realized that I did want something a little bit more moody. So I relit the scene and reshot it, and I got this, which is basically a stripped back version of this. And now when you have this to compare with the first version, you realize that this is way too lit. It looks very artificial, and this looks like there was no lighting on the location, even though there was. And I also tweaked the white balance to be a little bit more natural. So let's grade this. Now, I didn't have the color checker for this scene, so I just did it manually. But the thing is, it's not a complex scene and the white balance is natural, so there isn't really that much that I would need to correct, and I can just head into the color grade. The first thing I'm gonna do is to make it a little bit moodier, because, you know, that's the vibe we're going for. We're gonna crush it. And I am going to, and now I'm gonna duplicate the effect, get a second instance, and as I said before, I do not like white walls, so I'm gonna do something about it and select it as nicely as I can. Now let's get everything, let's get as little of the skin tone as possible. Let's go down to the saturation. This shot is a little bit harder because everything is, because the values on the wall are very similar to the values on my face, so it's a little bit harder to get a clean selection. And now let's see where this goes. I'm just gonna take it down like this to see, you know, what am I ruining? I would be affecting the highlights on the face, which is not such a bad thing because, you know, it is the same lighting and the highlights are gonna be same-ish. So if I were to pull it down just a little bit, then it's not that bad. Let's see where we are. Yes. There's a little bit of green in there, which I don't want. So let's, yeah. Okay. Now we've colored the wall a little bit. What I can do is to go into the regular color wheels and just take all the shadows, take them a little bit to the cold side, and take all the midtones a little bit, just a tad little bit to the warm side, and try and balance that with the highlights. No, not sure if I like that. The skin tones look a little bit green. Yeah, let's take the skin tones more to the magenta. Okay, so I like this. This is cool. I don't know. The skin tones are, I think I would like them a little bit colder. Does this look real? Yes, this looks real. So I kind of like it. You know, in the past, I would be looking at the beard and the darks, and I'm like, okay, that kind of looks fake-ish. It doesn't look natural. But then this is always me thinking of what other people will think, and I only do that when I'm getting paid. Now if I like it, then that's what it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be correct, because if someone is looking at the fact that the beard is a little bit blue, then something's wrong with the shot, because the attention is not going where it should be going. So this is the shot. I like it. I would use it like this. It's moody. I'm shooting into the shadows. There's a nice kick from the window. I'm satisfied with this. I like it. It's moody. It's minimal. Something's missing, and that thing is my secret sauce, which is not so secret because it is a plugin that anyone can buy, and it's called Dehancer. Now, Dehancer is a film emulation plugin that is pretty much the best that helps you imitate the film look. It's not just a filter that you place on your video. It is a plugin that basically goes into the pixels, into the DNA of your shot, and makes it filmic from within. And it has lots of presets that you can start with. So what I do usually is to set the color space, which is Rec 709 in this instance. And then I set the print, which if I enable it here, when it's in linear, it kind of washes it out. And I've seen that the Kodak Endura glossy paper keeps the contrast and the gamma the way it was. So, there's no difference with enable or disable. And after that, I get to choose which type of film I want it to look like. And there are about 63 presets on this. And I'm just gonna go through them one by one. And as you can see, each has a different look. This is beautiful. Now you might be thinking film, but where's the grain and where's all the artifacts and the dust and scratches? Well, but here I get to pick the type of film look that I would like this shot to have. Moving down, I get to add whatever characteristic of film that I want, and I'm able to set how much grain, for example, I have and how much halation and bloom that I want. So it's very, very customizable. I'm just showing you the film looks here, but I'm gonna go down to the preset that I chose, which is Kodak Ektar, read all about, no, actually that was Kodak Portra 160. That's what I liked because it just made everything demure and low-key, and that's why I like it. Moving down to film compression. Now, film compression does exactly what it sounds like. It compresses your highlights so that they are less in contrast with the midtones and the shadows. Now, you might think, if I just pull the highlights down with the curves or with a three-way color, don't I get the same thing? Not actually, because the film compression, it works only on the highlights. So as you can see, the highlights are here and here. And if I enable it and disable it, it's compressing only the highlights. Now this is a very subtle effect, but it is something that makes any shot look a little bit more filmic, a little bit more cinematic. Now the cinematic look is not one thing that you add. It's a collection of subtle imperfections that, when added together, give your shot a film look. Now Expand does something similar, but to the shadows. I don't need that for this shot. My shadows are quite crushed. With a color head, if I enable this, you can do a little bit of color grading here, which I'm not going to do this time because I've already done the grading. But as you can see, you can get quite creative in here. So I'm just gonna disable that and go back to my own grade. Now, film grain. And I'm gonna settle with a 35 millimeters at ISO 50, which is not that much. And if I want to go for a preset that is even more subtle, I go for the 65 millimeters at 50, which you can see there. Yeah. I mean, obviously 65 millimeter would be like IMAX, I think. Not sure of that. But you can go custom with this and you can choose exactly how much you want. And you can basically knock yourself out. Which I'm not doing because I'm lazy and I want to use the presets because I like them. Because the presets are good. Now halation. Halation is the warm glow that appears on the highlights in film. It's very subtle. I'm just gonna put 8 millimeters super remjet. Yeah, so this is an exaggerated instance of halation. There you go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It kind of warms the image up. Now this is way too much. It's not realistic. So if I go with the Super 35, it's barely there, but it is there. You know, it's warming up the highlights. So I'm just gonna keep it like that. You know, I can go for Super 16, which is just a little bit more. Here, you can see it. Boom, boop, boop. Okay, let's keep it at 16. Yeah. So we get down here to bloom, which again is something that we do to the highlights. And it feels like when it comes to the film look, we're constantly trying to change the highlights, and I can relate because my ex always wanted to change me. Wherever you have a highlight, it kind of gives it a slight glow. Let's see here on the nose. So this is a highlight. Here's with the bloom. Gives it a slight glow. So yeah, that's what bloom does. It just gives all the highlights a slight glow. This is not slight because this kind of looks weird. So I'm just gonna go to a, let's say 16 millimeters. It's good enough, it's there. You can feel it, you don't have to see it. If you don't point it out, you're not gonna notice. So we have the halation and film damage and film breadth. I mean, that's something that I would use if I was going for a retro look, but I'm not doing that. I mean, even though I'm using a film emulation plugin, using a film emulation plugin doesn't mean you necessarily have to have a retro look. Basically, I've just used Dehancer to put some final finishing touches on my color grade. And let's see where we are with the before. And here we are with the after. Let's zoom in. That's before. And that's after. I think there's just much more personality in this. I like how it just subdued everything. Just everything feels more sensible. Dehancer helps me tone things down. I'm not good at toning things down. I'm very extra. So I like Dehancer for this. And let's take a look at where we started. Here we are. Which is good. But then you take a look at where we ended up. And it's like, oh wow. Am I an artist? Am I like a savant? No. Here's our original shot. The original shot. Original, before I made the changes to the lighting. And here's our final shot. I think this is way more mature than this. And also this, you know, this is childish. But I always have to go through my childish phase to get to my mature adult content. If you liked what you saw in this video and you'd like to try out Dehancer, you can use my affiliate link, which gives you 10% off all Dehancer products, and it is down in the description. And now, please enjoy my very best impression of Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. And as I sat down and started writing, I realized that there is P in the word penis. And I think that everyone should get to experience that. XOXO, Gossip Girl, and may the force be with you.